This is a description of two ways to put data into a graph or a chart in Excel. And regardless of what kind of chart it is, the characteristics of getting the data is always the same. There's at least two different ways to do anything in Excel. So this is two of the ways to get the data in a graph. To start a graph, I'm going to make a bar chart, and I'm going to mark the data that will be used, then insert up on the menu line and over to charts, and I want a bar chart, 2 column, and there's the bar chart. This is simple to do, and I start with the numbers and add the data to it. Now I can add data to this chart, right click in the chart and go to Select Data. And the series we already have is here, and we want to add another series. And we get a series name. We're going to call this one Jones. We'll need to change the name on the previous series. It doesn't actually have a name. And then mark the data that will be used. And there is the chart. I started with data for the first column of numbers, then added to it with the select data. Another way to do this, and it's exactly equivalent, is to begin with a chart. So I'm going to insert and going to still do a bar chart. Now I have a chart with nothing in it. If I right-click inside the chart, there is the Select Data again. And now I'm starting from scratch, and I want to add, and I'm going to add the first column of numbers. This is Smith, and then mark the choices here. Go back and OK, and there is the first series of numbers. I can add the second one, by clicking Add and then getting those values that I want to put in. And that's the second way to make a chart. I can start with the numbers and make a chart, or I can start with a chart and then add data to select data. This is going to be an XY graph. We have actually X, Y, and Z. And for this graph, I'm going to remove the one I've got. And we're going to start with the information X and Y. So I'm going to start with data, mark it, then insert on the top menu, and over on charts, I want an XY chart without any connecting lines. And there is the chart that I get by starting with the data. I can add to this, right-click inside the chart, select data, and here is the previous series, and I want to add another series, and this one's going to be the Z values. So first I'll have X values, and then I'm going to add what they call y values. In this case, is going to be this column of z's. And there is the information for the graph. So I have x here and y and z on the upright axis. So that I started with the data and then made a chart. This time I'm going to start with a blank chart, XY scatter plot, add data to it. Insert. In charts, I want the first scatter plot. Then I can right-click in the graph area, and here is the Select Data command. Also, if you look at the top, there is a Select Data command. These are exactly the same thing, just in different places. So this time we'll select data at the top, and we have the typical add the series. I'm going to add the first one, which is y. Mark the x's for the x-axis. Then the y values for the y-axis. And there is the data that we have for this particular XY graph. I can add the next column of z's. Again, add. I'll give it a name, call it z. This doesn't have to have a name. That can be blank. Select the x values. Then select the y values, which in this case are the z's. Okay. And here is the chart with the x, y, and z's plotted. The blue points are the y by x. The yellow points are the z by x. And the two ways to make a chart are to begin with the data and then add or elaborate, or begin with the chart and then add the data and go on from there. Both result in exactly the same thing. There's no difference.